The Buffalo Bills had an unsung hero in Week 3 against the Miami Dolphins. We'll talk about some Bills injury news. Some guys got banged up from the game, but nothing major on the back half of today's show. But before we do, Terrell Bernard is going to get the game ball, right, for making the game-sealing interception on Tua Tagovailoa. But it was Deone Walker that play would not have been possible without. We'll tell you why in just a moment, but if you're still fired up about the Bills win in Week 3, moving on to 3-0, getting a win in the division again as well, hit that like button, smash that thumbs up icon like it's a table in the grass slot if you're still fired up about that Bills win. So Deone Walker, as a matter of fact, not only generated a pressure on Tua Tagovailoa, he also got a hand on the football, tipped it just a little bit, and maybe Bernard would have gotten the pick regardless, but Deone Walker messing and muddying up to his pocket and his field of vision made him, throw it errantly, and it ended up being a tip into the hands of Terrell Bernard, who took it the other way into Dolphins territory. The Bills were able to get the game sealed up with a field goal with under a minute left, and they got walked away with a 10-point victory. But Deone Walker did more than just that tip in the ball game. By the way that he generated that pressure made Tua throw the ball at a different angle, throwing it inside of Deone Walker's body, and that affected the throw as well too. Put it right in Bernard's area there. So, but beyond that play, Deone Walker made a couple of nice stops, 2 tackles on the game solo on Devon Achane. From what I gathered, these were like 2-yard gains here, and he was one of the primary tacklers on those plays. So, shout out to him, man, making an impact in the run game, generating some pressures in the pass game as well. And look, Walker also admitted to making a mistake, missing an assignment earlier in the game. How good does it have to feel to make basically the play of the game? Yeah, I'll say it. Deone Walker made just as much of the play of the game as Terrell Bernard. Guess what? Sean McDermott thinks the same thing. He said that won't show up on the stat sheet, but that could have been as big of a play as Terrell Bernard. So after making a mistake earlier in the game, and by the way, being man enough to admit to that mistake, and then going out and making up for it, and sealing this game with a turnover, absolutely awesome out of Deone Walker, man. And by the way, they got this guy in the 4th round. The Bills also seem to have a lot of trust in Deone Walker here, with Ed Oliver missing Week 2 and Week 3's action against the Jets and the Dolphins. The Bills decided to start Deone Walker next to Daquan Jones there on the Bills' 4-man front. Now, they didn't end up putting him they end up putting him in the one-tech position that he's more comfortable with, and moving Daquan Jones down the line on the defensive front. But that's just crazy awesome to think that a 4th-round rookie here is getting big-time snap counts on this Bills defensive line. And you know what? When Ed Oliver comes back and Daquan Jones is probably out of Buffalo at the end of the season, you have your one tech of the future. The Bills seem to have a lot of trust in him. They've been talking him up all camp long. He's made plays in the preseason, and now he's reaping the rewards of all this work in the regular season as well. And like I said, 4th-round pick, by the way. He fell in the draft process, I feel like, man. This is it was an absolute stat sheet stuffer at Kentucky. Maybe it was a size thing that people were concerned about, but my goodness, this guy makes plays in the National Football League, and the Bills are very lucky to have him. When you consider the way that this roster is constructed, and you talk about Josh Allen making all this money, the Bills having some fat cap hits and some dead money around, when you can hit on a guy in the 4th round and consistently like Brandon Beane does on day 3 of the draft, it just makes it all the more better here. Bills, you might have your one tech of the future in Deone Walker, making a huge play in just his 3rd NFL game. Show some love to Deone Walker like the coaching staff has, and everybody really has in that Bills building. Type his jersey number down in the comment section. Throw some 96s down below if you guys want to show some love to Deone Walker for taking a huge part in making play of the game here in Week 3. Let's talk a little bit more about that play of the game. Terrell Bernard, he did make that play. Let's not take away from him here. Made the play, took it the other way, and he made the play due to film study, doing the work in practice that people are not going to hear about on a week-to-week basis. Yeah, here's what he had to say about it. He said, it was a play we saw on tape. My linebacker coach, Al Holcomb, he played it a couple of times and said if I didn't get it, there was going to be something to pay. Yeah, probably HE double hockey sticks there for Terrell Bernard and Al Holcomb there, his linebackers coach. Shout out Al Holcomb, man. Not every team's got that. Not every team has the way the IQ and the talent in their coaching staff to be able to recognize that's a play that they like to run consistently when they need to go out there and get additional yards. He pointed it out, and he made it a point to have Terrell Bernard familiar with that look. he went out there and made the play. So that was absolutely awesome to see from Bernard and both Bernard and Walker here. But Deone Walker, your absolute unsung hero of Week 3. Next, we're going to talk about some Bills injury news as, again, nothing was major. Nobody left the game and was unable to return, but some guys did get banged up that we could see on the injury report for Week 4. We'll talk about it in just a second. But first, guys, you and I make decisions every single day. But on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. This episode of Bills Breakdown is brought to you by PrizePicks, where you can win up to 2,000 times your money watching your Buffalo Bills this season. It's daily fantasy made easy. All you guys got to do is pick 2 to 6 players and just pick more or less on their projected stats. Whether it's football, college football, baseball playoffs are creeping up, basketball around the corner. You can mix and match all these different sports. WNBA playoffs are in full swing as well. And PrizePicks always wants to make it easier for you guys to win real money in real time. Like this awesome deal that you see on screen. Yeah, if you play your first $5 entry after using our promo code CLNS, you get $50 in lineups instantly to use on PrizePicks. Kickstart you with some free green in that account. My lineup for Week 3 is as follows. Unfortunately, I went 4 of 5 on this lineup. Tua Tagovailoa less than fantasy score. Keon Coleman couldn't get me enough receiving yards there. Did have Jalen Waddle more than 2.5 receptions. And then James Cook did his job for me on the ground. Tail my picks or fade them. Just do it at PrizePicks. Download the app today and use the code CLNS for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Great news. You avoided major injury in Week 3 against the Dolphins. And I had said leading up to this game that the Bills would get an additional win in the column in my book if they walked out of here without any big-time injuries. And they did just that. You lose Ed Oliver after Week 1, early Week 2 practice. You lose Matt Milano after a pectoral injury in Week 2. And those look to be multi-week injuries. I don't think that either one of those two guys is coming back next week. So you had to come out of this game against the Miami Dolphins, which got a little bit chippy, by the way, from time to time, without any of those big-time multi-week injuries. And they did just that. A couple of guys did get banged up, though. We could talk about it in just a second. Osiris Torrance with a knee. He ended up, I think, getting run into in the back of the leg and ended up going down and holding his knee there. So definitely scary for a moment, but he was able to pop back up and play on the ensuing play, and it was all good there. It seemed like it was a little bit more of a hurt rather than injured type of thing for Osiris Torrance, and that's great news considering he's having a breakout season so far at the guard spot. Christian Benford, woof, this one was scary, guys. I'm not going to lie. Christian Benford got the wind knocked out of him on a little bit of a friendly fire. It was a deep shot to Tyreek Hill early on in the ball game, and Benford ended up getting run into basically just a straight shot to the rib cage. Just totally got the wind knocked out of him by Taylor Rapp. And look, I'm not going to say this is like an issue that needs to be crazily addressed, but Taylor Rapp, not only in practice, but now in the football games, some friendly fire on some of the Bills receivers, and now his own teammate on defense. So got to clean some of that up, man. Why can't we knock the wind out of an opposing player rather than our own? Taylor Rapp's got to clean that stuff up. AJ Epinesa went down with a little bit of a hip thing. He came out for a series and then was able to talk with some trainers and some doctors. He came back in for the Bills in the next series, so seems all good there on that front. And then James Cook, which is a little bit interesting, I'm not going to lie. After the Khalil Shakir touchdown that gave the Bills the 28-21 lead, James Cook was coming out of the medical tent there. So doesn't seem like we got any updates on that in the immediate post game, but we'll be monitoring that as the week gets closer. We probably won't hear any real legit Bills injury updates until Monday. They got a long weekend upcoming here, so good for them on that. Doesn't seem like anything here is too much to be worried about, though. Some good injury news for Buffalo here as far as those multi-week injury goes. Ed Oliver is not in a boot anymore. He was seen pregame. He was seen during the game not wearing a boot on the Bills sideline there. Not going to say he's going to be ready to go for Week 4, but that is absolutely some great news nonetheless. This Bills defensive line absolutely needs him. The Dolphins, they were getting a push, and they were also protecting Tua Tagovailoa pretty well. The Bills did not get a sack in Week 3. So, Ed Oliver, need you back sooner rather than later, my brother. Good to know that you're not in a boot anymore, though, and that recovery is going along well. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Give me a follow over on Twitter at Tyler J. Smith. 2 H's because the name's common, but I am not. And like I said, subscribe. YouTube.com/Bills News. We'll be updating you guys as the season goes along with everything you need to know around your Buffalo Bills. So, with that being said, we'll see you in the next one. And as always, let's go, Buffalo.